As y'all can see, this porch has been changed around a little bit since the last time I came on here to do a video, and there's little things we'll talk about along the way. I want to mention that I drew some lines in here for Mary and Joseph and have decided among these measurements to give them some praying hands, and I'd say there's probably just maybe a little step or two we're going to come by here and try to make, and I'd say we kind of made these lines where they're about, I'd say, quarter of an inch apart, so we're going to go half an inch down on these to try to get a good measurement for a hand and try to see what it's going to come down to once we do it. And so I say that this is where we got the hands up at the top of the statue and just little ways to go down this next one too. I do want to tell you all that if it rains, which it might, we probably more than likely will be going inside, maybe shutting down the video to finish later, but I'd say from the way it just feels kind of cool and breezy out here tonight, and probably like maybe a little moisture in the air, it's almost like it might rain. So I say that that's just a place where we see a little work to be done, make it so we're going to kind of give a little workout to these things. I'll tell y'all, people, I've had my workouts and exercises at the gym this week. That was the good thing. I've kind of, just had things go well at work. I've been having little anxieties because, like you all know, I tell you all that I do have a friend who has relatives in Israel, and that's kind of the reason I've been a little distraught lately by the things that have been taking place there. And, that's kind of among those things where in life we just kind of have to know what's good and know what's bad. And sometimes, sin exists in this world. That is kind of the reason why we have some of the terrors we have in life and the way that we see these things. Tell y'all, there's a little line I drew down the middle, and am already kind of thinking that might be a little place as to where there might be a little openness in the road there to come along the front. And I tell y'all that I think it's a moment when we're going to try to make that certain line go down there and get it right in its own good little place. I say, oh, and when you kind of come to see little joys of working with wood, you know, it'll all just come to you in a way. I say, this is the best thing we could have to offer to us when we work a little ways, kind of make ourselves see what's good in us, what's brightening us. And oh, I tell y'all, little work in places where we never thought we'd see the light of day. That's how it goes. That's how it comes along. I say that you can see a little time and effort being done into a piece. Not sure whether that makes the hands come out good enough, but just decided that would be the best I could try. Think I will do the same with this other one as well, but try to make this line first. I discovered a little error I had there trying to kind of make this line after having cut the um, vertical one. So maybe this time we cut this one, and maybe we'll try to cut these other two vertical ones first after we cut the horizontal one, and then cut down the center after that. So here's where we make the way to work along the best we can. We know that these are kind of a little different from what those other nativity pieces I carved were like, but this is just one of those works where we take ourselves along and see a little brighter image of a brighter day in life. Oh, I tell y'all, like one little work of a hand that does this little omniscient type of thing, I say, and just the way we kind of come about things. We probably got a little swervy curve there in the carving, but we'll kind of, I'd say, just take that along, take a little more rest of the way, I say, and get down to where we will see a better work of art come out in the end. And so it just shows us what we're inclined to do, make it so we're just seeing brighter images in our work, and this is how it'll come out. Believe I'll take this little moment and do the same steps with these figures of Joseph as well, and we just got that little line cut in there, got the little one to make along this way, and then come down to where we got the little places that will make us see, oh good heavens, to what we do. I tell y'all that a little another cut can be made right here, and to me it feels like a breath of fresh air just to get out on the porch and do a little carving for a video, because I tell you all that it's just a time in my life when I'm kind of having to save a little money, save a little energy, and kind of where I'm just not doing a whole lot of going out places right now, kind of trying to limit myself as to what I do, because it's just one of those times when we all just got to be watchful out there of where we are, where we're going, what we're doing, and just a time when probably I'd say I've got some shows, so probably good thing idea that I just kind of save up just with enough to, I'd say, cover the amount of cash I'm going to have to carry with me for change in case anybody gives me a $50 or $100 bill. You know, we've come along, and we'll take it another little step with this next one here to put in the extra line, make it so he's going to have a little work done into him, and I say just work our way along here. Do want to tell you all that there's been some scraps I've been looking at that I've been debating that I might use for the cattle, the sheep, the shepherds. Well, I'll tell you all, there's a certain piece I already have picked for the sheep. It's kind of relatively the same shape as those ones I make for the Lynn Deal nativity pieces and for those shepherds, but I'd say the blank relatively is, except it didn't come out as good on the saw, good enough to be one of the other types, so have carved along on one that I might show you in a little bit just to kind of let you see how it does, how it goes, how it works. And I say that this is just a little ways we try to save what we have in our work and what we do in life. And I say, oh, kind of work is this? Oh, what a kind of work we have in our hands to balance out faith and life and value. I say, people, grace be to you. Oh, the goodness of life. Oh, the blessedness that comes in knowing the things that we know, wisdom and knowledge. And here we got the hands a little more carved out. Think we're going to kind of take the same little curves along the hands and the sleeves on these other little figures as well. And I say little things we got in life, we manage them well, take them to where we see how the best is that they can be, how the best is that they can do. And I'd tell y'all that this is just one thing that I see whenever I go about a little work in life and make things so that you will kind of see what the best in them can be as for how we make the work come along and do the little things we do just to show a little bit of creativity in life. And there's been all kinds of strange things we've seen in cartoons, you know. We think about how there was that episode of South Park that was about the Christmas and Nativity, and little Kyle, his mother was on there saying, "Why is my son Joseph of Arimathea? My son is Jewish." I tell y'all, and they kind of made a little error there because I tell y'all, it's like, I mean, you know, Joseph of Arimathea was not the same Joseph as the one who was the man who raised Jesus. I don't really believe Joseph was Jesus' father, though. I believe God was Jesus' father. God the Father was Jesus' father, and Jesus himself is God in the person of the Son. So we work our way along this, and there's just so much I find out about how life goes and how we do. And then this is just how the kind of life happens to us all. Oh, a little creativity. I got Joseph out here. And I say, as for little Mary, we're going to cut out her hands and put little faith in her palms and where she's praying. And one time I watched a movie on one of the broadcast channels called Mary, the Mother of Jesus, where at the end, after Jesus was crucified, she was praying the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And those of us who know the Bible know the rest of that prayer, so it was all just said very well and said very good. And I tell y'all that we all kind of work along, carve at what we have, and see what we say. Blessed children, blessed are the Lord and Savior of all things, and blessed is God who works upon us and makes a little home inside our hearts and blesses us in good deeds, and who, if we are faithless, he remains faithful because he can't deny himself. And with all this work, we kind of got a little depiction of the Bible coming out. I do want you to know, sometime as a kid around Christmas time, one little thing I learned about in the Baptist church was about the little Jewish holiday of Sukkot. I was kind of saw in a friend's post about how on Saturday, when Israel was invaded, that even here in America, Jewish people went to synagogue on a holiday to find out what had taken place in Israel, how awful it was, and how it was for a holiday for them, and Googled to see which holiday it was and found out it was Sukkot. I tell you all that, like I say before, things like this, they can just be horrible news to us. And so much to watch out for in life, to know what we need. I think this point around, we're going to carve away and round off these little corners here. And make them so they're going to be kind of shaved down to a little flat angle where we see how Joseph is going to be. We'll do the same with Mary too in a little bit, but that's how I've worked along for this. If there's any more detail to be added, we'll figure it out, but think along Mary, it's going to be a longer way because, you know, she has kind of nothing cut open for the shawl. It's all just one single piece of robe that includes a hood, so it's all going to go away. I mean, her robe was just like the hoodies we wear nowadays, you know, where it's all just one piece of jacket that you just put on and take off, that has the hood attached, where the kind where that you don't really zip up, but you just put it on and take it off like a shirt. And so with this little way we go about this, we see how a little carving work shall make its way along. Of course, I'll say that sooner or later, these little chips, they're gonna fall on the porch like they are doing, but they can also just come along and, you know, they'll probably fertilize or serve as mulch for anything they come across. And this is sassafras, so sassafras isn't all that poisonous a wood, so won't be all that bad a thing. So it's not like if it was walnut or something like that. If you had like any chips of walnut that were left over from carving a piece of that, you wouldn't want to use that as any kind of mulch. I tell you, I learned about the poison of walnut when I first started carving and decided I'd do a little experiment with it. Took the little chips of the walnut wood and mixed them with coffee grounds, put it in the coffee pot together and brewed it and drank it. I'd say it probably didn't do me too bad. Might have just given me a little bit of a stomach ache, but that wasn't the worst it could do. I've heard walnut isn't all that poison for human consumption, but if you're carving something out of it and you cut yourself while you're doing it, you do want to make sure you get that treated, because it could also just, it could certainly poison you that way, because it would probably get right into your bloodstream. So that's a little caution I'd say would be good to take. And so, and I'd say of all things, you know, when I first started carving, even before I started carving walnut, I was always just warned of that. I was informed of that, so I would know it when I went to doing something. And of course, I was I told you before about the little accident I had with my hand all those years ago and even when that happened, I was cutting a piece of walnut on the bandsaw, but we know we got the toxin, the juglone, taken care of because I ended up getting a little antibiotic shot at the ER for that, and it was all for the good because they probably had to give you that shot just in case there would have been any bad germs on the blade or anything like that. So it just worked for the better, worked for the good. I say that I think we're going to go along, kind of remove all these little jagged saw marks off the back of Joseph's headdress, try to remove all that stuff, get it for the better, and let it all be taken care of best way it needs to be as far as what we're going to have and what we're going to do. I say that this is just the little work as it comes along the way. It's just silly little ways we kind of go about what we do. I think I'm going to make the headdress come down a little bit more in the back, the little band that is, and makes us think how when we were kids, we probably saw the advertisement for those cartoons about Rambo and think about how Rambo wore a red headband, but it's always funny how we used to think it was a rubber band. We'd put rubber bands on our foreheads and thinking that was what Rambo did, and we were told no, Rambo didn't wear a rubber band, he wore a headband. I mean, in our family, those movies were of course R-rated, so we didn't watch them. I don't really watch much R-rated stuff as an adult because I just think it's a little too violent here and there, and it's just a little more than I can stand, so it's all just kind of among those things that these days I just tend to avoid so much because some things are just horrible when they happen in movies, horrible enough when they happen in real life, and sometimes, movies just kind of portray things that have really happened and can kind of depress us just to watch and to see. So, I know I heard all about how Saving Private Ryan was and never saw that. No, there had kind of been that Imagination Land episode of South Park where I saw a certain scene and somebody told me about a certain Saving Private Ryan scene that compared to, and then kind of Googled it to kind of see what that scene was. I watched it on YouTube, but the scene, it just wasn't all that good. I knew I couldn't watch the whole thing because horrible things like that really happened. And it's just the kind of thing where when we see war, it's real. It really takes place in real life and kind of saddens us to see why so many things happen to us, like so many civilians kind of got killed in Israel this past week, It's horrible to see anybody get killed, but I just kind of Googled, found out a civilian is anybody who is not among the armed forces or the police. So that just kind of goes to show you what we kind of learn about how it is and reasons why we have police and armed forces and things like that in general. It's just to kind of go out and take care of these things where things like this kind of happen in our lives, and we have to be careful just to get around to stop it from going further. I showed you all a while ago the little groove marks from the saw on the back of this piece of wood, and that's what I'm working right now to kind of get rid of and kind of getting all the little places out of it where we're going to see a little work to be done in the little headdress of Joseph. I'd say that there's going to come a time when we'll carve along and make a shepherd too, but we'll have to decide what scraps to use to do that, because that can kind of be a lot of work and require a little headdress in the making as well. So that's where we work along to make that come in. We'll see a little ways that we come along to make the little head and little work to come along. Oh, blessed child of Eden and God and all things, oh, son of Adam. We know that there's a place in Matthew's gospel where we see the genealogy of Jesus, the whole genealogy that goes all the way down from Adam to Jesus, and all the genealogy that kind of led up down through Mary and Joseph over the years. And you know, it just so happens Mary and Joseph were both in the seed of David, but they were very distant in the seed of David. They had different descendants that they came from, and I'd say that it's all just one thing you find written right there, and it's all just a little good character, you see. I say we're making this little thing come out as good as it ought to be, and so we're working along making little characters out of wooden things and all the sassafras and stuff, and you know, makes us think how they made tea from sassafras root, from what I've heard. Never was around that much, but you know, there was just so much interesting little things I find out about life as I live longer. I say that we kind of got the Mary done here, but we're going to remove the corners of her and remove the saw marks from the front of her, because this is just where we see how we do and what we do, and then come down to the point where we get it all taken care of, get it all shaved off, and get rid of all the places we don't need to see all the little extra lines and roughness in the wood, and take care of little things like we need them to know and be and to do, and to see how we work miracles in our lives and show all the goodness of God in our hearts, and all the things I say, you know, makes me think back to something in 2003 where I was having a little conversation with my grandmother. You know, there was just little thing in the news we were talking about, and something that some kid got arrested for doing, and I told her about all the good I try to get out and do, and all the ways that were the complete opposite, all the ways I'd reach out to people just by sharing the gospel message in those little cassette tapes and CDs I made, those little mass-produced ones that I copied and shared and gave around to people just to kind of show a little love and grace and mercy and be a witness. And she goes like, well, she says, well, that's because you have the Lord in your heart, and he really works in you in that way. And then had a friend from Virginia Beach call me on Christmas Day to talk to me, and told her about my grandmother saying that, and the friend said, she's right. So I say we finally got these little creatures taken care of here. will probably, I'd say, take a moment to do as I said I would. Maybe show you all the little pieces that are becoming little lambs. And this is one that I completely carved out, but have to kind of take my time, look at this one to know how I'll carve out the other, because that is going to be a thing where I'm going to have to really concentrate and focus, because this is a new way of carving something, so it'll have to be done separate from the camera. I can't really do it and video and record it at the same time, because it's going to require the best of my concentration, the best way I can do it. And I'd say we're just reluctant, good enough, I'd say, that we have gotten about, I'd say, a couple of pieces for each set, what I might consider completely carved out now. Don't really know how much else I'm going to do as far as work goes. Might think of more things as more ideas come along, but just wanted to say that I appreciate you all coming on here to watch this video. I hope that if you get a chance, and if you'd like to, that you will hit the subscribe button and kind of stay tuned to watch more. If it so interests you to hear all I like to say and all I like to talk about while I carve or sew or demonstrate or do whatever I get on here to do. But I will say, for me, it is kind of getting dark out here. You can probably see in the background it's getting a little twilight, and but it is kind of, at least to me, getting dark from the outside of the camera. So that's kind of the reason why I think I'm going to close down for the night and kind of come back, and maybe if I'm in a different place like the shop or somewhere, be my next video. Don't know where it'll be, have to decide that based on where I am, what the weather's like, and the temperatures and things like that. So thanks again for watching. Take care.